Hello all. Today we are going to discuss a new topic, organizational design. See, what we've learned in earlier classes, you remember what an organization is, and the crucial element for any organization are the people and their relationships. That we all know. But then how do organizations come to the form that we see them today, right? So who makes an organization? It's the top management who takes all the decisions, major decisions based on input from various sources. That we all understand and know this, right? But what are the most crucial elements or the sources of those information that the top management uses to take the decisions that shape the organizations further? As you can see in the slide, we are talking about organizational effectiveness. Whenever there is an organization, they need to be effective, they need to be efficient, right? So for that, let's start from the very beginning. How do organizations come to the form that they exist and we see them today? Right, so there are two things that you can see. One is the external environment and the internal situation of an organization, which is giving input to the CEO or the top management regarding like external environment, what is the context, what are the political situations, what is the market situation, competitors and all those things. All that information clubbed together comes to the top management as the external environmental situation or information. Then we look at the internal situation, because it's not sufficient to just look at outside and decide or take all the crucial decisions. You must also know your own strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. Now, the internal situation is mostly about the SWOT of an organization, right? They need to know what are their core competencies, what is that they are doing, and what is the business they are into, and what is it that they do best, right? We all understand. For an individual like you or me, we go on and find out about our strengths and weaknesses and all those kinds of things. So similarly, top management needs to know about the internal situation of an organization. Right, so based on external as well as internal information, as well as if you look at the final loop, it's the feedback loop. It tells the organizations what kind of effectiveness or the level of effectiveness that they have right now. So the past performance feeds into the internal information or situation for the organization to understand whatever they have been doing till now, was that effective enough or do they need to make any changes? So that's how the top management comes to know what are their strengths, what is the market situation and what is to be done next. Then comes the strategic intent. Based on all this information, organizations, the top management needs to form a strategic intent, which is nothing but the mission, the official goals. What are their goals in the long run? Those are known as the official or mission goals. And based on these mission statements, these official long-term goals, organizations need to have some operational or operating goals, which are the short-term steps that they need to do in order to reach the outcome that they are intending, right? So that's the strategic intent. Based on the market situation, are they planning for being the cost leaders, or are they going for a differentiation strategy? Are they trying to place themselves as the most innovative organization or something else? Whatever, based on their internal competency, what business they are into and the market situation where they are operating, they will decide on a strategic intent. Next step is this strategic intent then influences the organizational design. As you can read out there, structural form. What does design incorporate, or what are the crucial elements for organizational design? We have certain elements such as structure, culture, people, their relationship and the processes, right? So structure of an organization is a factor or is a result of the strategy that an organization is looking out for, that the strategy they have adopted. Then we talk about culture, people, processes. All these things are based on what kind of strategy an organization is having. What is their strategy, right? Please do notice that there is a feedback loop from organization design to the strategic intent. Now what does that mean? What comes first, strategy or design? Or is it always like that? Does strategy always lead to a particular kind of structure or organization design? Can we be sure about that? Whenever an organization changes its strategy, suppose the market condition has changed, consumer preferences or customer, they want something else. They don't want what they were till now consuming. Now they want something else. For instance, now they do not want to buy Kodak cameras. They just want their smartphones. That's enough for them. So now the organizations, based on these, new coming up conditions, they need to adapt the strategy. Does that mean organizations can always change their design whenever they change their strategy, or it can be vice versa? Well, you would notice that many organizations which were here around 50 years ago, 100 years ago, do not exist anymore. That's simply because they were not able to adapt based on the changing situations. So they could not change their strategy as fast as was needed. And that is because of the organizational inertia or the design inertia. Whatever structure they had, maybe bureaucracy, maybe a very functional, departmentalized, formalized structure was there, and now suddenly the need was for a collaborative, innovative structure. But they failed to change themselves, maybe because they were too big, huge organizations. It's very difficult to change their form, their design. So this whole subject, the topic of organizational design, is basically it's concentrated on these elements. What leads to a particular organization design? When do we say an organizational design is effective enough, right? Whenever a strategy is there, you need to have an organizational design which suits that strategy, which is in sync with the strategy of the organization. And then we look at the effectiveness, whether or not the result has been achieved. Now, effectiveness again can be measured in various ways. One thing I would like you all to pay attention to is the differentiation between effectiveness and efficiency. When do we say an organization is effective, and when do we call an organization as efficient? Now, these are two different things, and they both are related to the outcomes, the result of the whole exercise, the whole kind of processing that an organization does. So efficiency basically is how efficiently the organization has been able to achieve their results. It is related to the resources, time, manpower, finances, how much of these inputs were utilized in order to reach the goal, right? And effectiveness is what percentage of the output was achieved. For instance, if the target was 100 units to be sold, how many units were sold at the end? That's your effectiveness. But in order to sell those units, how much time was required, how many people were involved, all that comes in picture when we talk about efficiency. Now, you all would agree that it's not just enough to be efficient, you also need to be effective. So efficiency and effectiveness both need to be a factor of how well the organization has been designed. Also, please do not forget, when we talk about core competency, we also need to talk about the core production technology or the core technology of an organization. An organization can be a manufacturing unit, it can also be a service provider. So for a manufacturing unit or a manufacturing company, the core technology would be all the processes, all the machinery that is involved in converting the raw materials into the final goods, the output. So the processing happens, and for a manufacturing unit, core technology involves all your heavy machinery, the assembly line, and all kinds of milling, drilling, and all those things. Whereas for the same manufacturing organization, we also have several non-core processes such as the HR functions, financial functions, legal aspects. So all these supporting functions are called as non-core technologies or non-core processes which support the core technology. And based on the technology, whatever you are using, whatever your core competency or what your business is, you need to decide your strategy and organization design. You cannot simply say that I am a manufacturing unit, I produce goods, I produce maybe toothpaste. Those are the toothpaste tubes that I am producing, but I'd like to have a very innovative, collaborative, open culture, open communication, no control. But then your whole business is going to be in-laws haywire, because you need to have certain amount of control when you talk about manufacturing. You need to look at your efficiency as well as effectiveness. You cannot let every person on the assembly line decide for him or herself what the person is going to do and when. It's like a process. There is lots of interdependence. So manufacturing unit, the core process, is also one of the elements on which the final decision for organization design rests. Similarly, on the other hand, we have the service providers. The same non-core processes which we're talking about in terms of HR, finance, legal, all those now become the core processes for a service provider. For example, an HR consultancy, a hospital. Now all those things, all these places have core technology as the services being provided, and everything else is just non-core. So at the end, I'd like to conclude by saying that going through an organization's design, looking at its structure, analyzing its culture is all interlinked. We cannot decide one element ignoring the other. For the top management, it is imperative, it's essential to look at the market conditions, the internal situation, their core competency, their past experiences, and then based on all this information and data, they need to design a strategy, and that strategy must be in sync with the organization's design, which includes structure, culture, processes, the people, their relationships, etc. And the final effectiveness will again be the feedback loop for the next decision that needs to be taken by the management. I hope you all go back, read your books, come to the class with more information on this. Thank you so much.